Okay. Keep breaking that. Welcome to the post-league time pre-show, guys.
How we doing?
I'm your host? Yes, I'm your host with the most. Shut up, Mark. Hello, I'm Scarra. Welcome, guys, to the post-league time pre-show. We're gonna chill with you guys while we talk about before we talk about the real hard-hitting analysis of the series. Spoiler alert: TSM maybe didn't play that well. But
you don't say.
But before we get into there, welcome to this show.
Yeah, it's been a while since you and I have actually done this together. It was semis was the last time we did a show together, right? Because I didn't do finals, and then there was the week off for the play-in stage, which we didn't do. I think it's been like 2 or 3 weeks. No, Josh. Josh is at work because this is on the weekdays. So this was crazy. Both of us thought it was on next Saturday, and it's like, oh shit, we're doing this today.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, let's talk about it a little bit.
I'm still gonna move around some camera settings. You can talk. I swear I'm listening.
All right, I actually don't like the MSI format very much. It feels like I did want another Worlds, but it feels like it's just not that important. Like I don't know. I just think that even this play-in stage, right? It just feels like it's just a setup for the next stage. Yeah.
As soon as we fucking start the show, someone's got to like try and break into a car outside.
It's not as bad as what happened to us this morning.
What?
You didn't hear what happened to us this morning?
Oh, I didn't hear about this morning. I heard about yesterday morning.
Was that yesterday morning?
That was yesterday morning when the lady broke into your house.
Yeah, yesterday morning.
You should tell that story.
I told that story twice already, man.
Oh, yeah, you should probably
Yeah. So for anyone joining us yesterday, we had one of our neighbors break into our house illegally, trespass onto our property. Essentially, what happened was she rang the doorbell a couple times. We were not awake, so she decided to let herself in. Like any good neighbor would do. Yep. Let herself in and start taking pictures of our kitchen and living room. So that was an interesting thing to wake up to. My roommate's yelling at my neighbor to get out. But welcome to LA.
Yep, a lot of crazy people here. I gotta say, no one has broken into our apartment yet, though, so we must be in a nicer area.
Well, I thought I was in a nice area.
You thought, man. Dude, nope.
Apparently not.
Yeah, so let's get back onto the play-in stage that you have problems with. What do you not like about it? Because I personally like the idea that they took the international wildcard qualifier and kind of like actually lumped it into the main tournament, because it did kind of feel like when the international wildcard qualifier was its own thing, no one watched it. And then this time you got like 100K viewers for like Red Canids versus Supermassive.
Okay, I think that's cool. I don't mind the multiple stages. I just think that it should be a build-up, So yeah. It's like okay, the first play-in stage should be like wildcard regions. You see the teams built themselves into like the main event. However, it seems like the build-up happens, and then in this, like, it's not really. The first stage was a huge elimination round. Every team but 2 got eliminated, right?
Yeah.
The second stage, it's 3 of the 4 advance. I think that's like not right.
It does sound weird when only 25% get through one stage and then 75% get through the next stage.
Right, and then after this, the next format is like, wait, now we have to play like another like
round
robin in between the 6 teams. It just seems like they really elongate. Like, I'm down to break the last 6 teams straight into a bracket and just go for it,
Right, like you could take you have to change it up, but you're saying like take 2 teams from the wild card play-in and throw them up into like a bracket where then like you give China and Korea a buy-in, and then there's a best of 5 between 2 teams. Winner goes and plays the teams with a bye, and then they go and play one more time.
Right. It just felt like this format was. I understand the idea behind the format, and I do like the first group stage, but the build-up past the first group stage just felt really unnecessary.
Well, so I didn't like the first group stage either, just because I was on the desk for it, and 30% of the games that they played, because only one team is advancing out of a group stage. Normally, a group stage has like 2 teams advancing, so like even if the number 1 team is locked, there's still something to watch for in like the second part. By the end of the second game of day 4, the next 4 games didn't matter. It was so many games that were just irrelevant.
I guess that's actually.
And trying to be on the desk, be like, hold on, let me break down this 50-kill game for you. There's some really insightful stuff I have.
I think having maybe, what was it, 8 teams, 10 teams, right? 5 on both sides.
No, it was 4 on both sides.
Oh, so 8 teams. I think that should have been like broken up, and then like maybe 4 teams advance, right? Because usually group stages of that many teams is each side advances more, and then in the next group stage, like let's say they advance 3 of the teams in here, then I wouldn't have a problem, right?
Right, and I think the other thing too is like just change the scheduling. Like if you know the 1 and 2 team are gonna play each other, like coming out of day 1, in day 2, maybe make that a game later on in the day. Like you can flex schedule a little bit because every team is playing every other team that day. So it's not like, oh, we thought we had to prep for this team and now we don't. It's like you prep for every team either way. Just move the game back so it's not the second game of the day.
Yeah, that is true.
That was pretty brutal.
I wasn't huge on this series or the format at MSI, and coming from someone who wants to see more international events, I'd like MSI to be another Worlds, but I just didn't get the same kind of like. I want to invest time into this event, but I honestly just skipped the entire first grouping stage. And in this series too, I would have skipped the whole thing outside of like, I guess maybe I would have watched 2 best of 5s, but it wasn't like super important for me. I'd rather just wait till the next week to watch everyone in the big like 6-man bracket.
Right. I mean, I think the idea for MSI is you don't want to challenge Worlds, and Worlds is like when you have multiple teams from every region going, but. I mean, you can be like, wouldn't it be more fun to have like the 2nd seed from NA, EU, China, and KR also play in the group, like the play-in stage?
Right. I think it's better for even the people playing the regions, because when they think about it, they're just like, MSI only matters for the one winner. You know, what about like the other teams? The way I thought about it was like 3rd, 4th place match should actually matter. There's just so much noise now. I don't understand.
I don't know what the fuck is going on around my apartment. Like
all quiet before.
We watched 5 games. Fucking because they came back from a reverse sweep. Like Scarra comes over after game 2 in case game 3 is the last game of the day, and then we sit together. We watch 3 games in silence basically, and now like someone's got to steal a car, and now someone has to lawn mow my my welcome mat needs to get chopped out.
Oh,
I know, there's like a wood chipper.
Goodness. But anyways, what was I even talking about here?
I don't know. The wood chipper's too strong.
I just completely zoned out there. I'm sorry.
Something about
the 3rd, 4th place match. I think the 3rd, 4th place match should actually matter. Like just
you
like,
mean for implications in Worlds?
Yes, because it feels bad to take the 3rd, 4th place match and be like, I'm winning 20 points more than you. Yeah, it's like, well, okay. And while it does have direct implications into next season, if we're going to next season, I'm sure the teams playing aren't going to be like, the only reason I'm not going to Worlds is because this team got 20 more points than me 6 months ago, like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, if I deserve to go to Worlds, I probably should have just won my games. That would have been a good way to get the Worlds.
Yeah, I think it's much better to take like a region strength, not just from that year indicated by the top team, but like how like average placing over the last like 2 years, and just have like kind of a rolling average. Like Korea's rolling average is like super high. Yeah, it's like
it's
1.
1.
It's like getting dragged down by their other teams because they're so good, whereas like everyone else is trying to fight their way up. So like, having some kind of rolling average, and then like teams outside the top 4. So you could do things like that. I think that could be more interesting than like a point thing for like specifically this one.
Yeah, I'd like to see that just get trash canned. But I mean, aside from that, what do you think about the relegation thing happening here in China?
So I am not an expert. I was talking to Kelsey and Emily, 2 people who are relatively experts in those regions. Obviously, Kelsey lives there. And from what she said, it's like kind of mixed response out of the fans and stuff like that. But the weird part is like, it's not just that they're doing franchising, it's that they're doing localization with it as well. So like some teams just going to be the Shanghai team.
They're doing the Overwatch style.
Yeah. So they're taking teams and putting them in cities. And like what's weird is like, I think it was the LGD manager or somebody gave an interview, and he was talking about how he was like, oh, I thought all this was getting rolled out together. I guess the other regions are doing this later. And everyone's like, how much are they doing the same? Like, is there going to be a like Boston team that's going to fly across the country to play an LA team? That sounds awful.
Yeah, that sounds really bad. Especially because it's like, well, wait, everyone's going to be off like different ping now, and it's going to be just
it sounds awful unless like you keep everything still localized to SoCal, where it's like here's the Anaheim team, and then here's the
Santa Monica
here's
team.
the Sacramento team, and here's the Santa Barbara team. Like maybe, but it's still weird. I can't like get super behind it. I like the idea of franchising. I mean, a lot of fans are like, franchising's gonna kill everything in League of Legends, and I'm like, I think it's gonna be fine. But there's aspects I don't like.
Yeah, the best argument that I've heard is like, of course owners would like franchising, and it's like, I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind owners liking franchises. I don't mind owners making money.
Yeah, I think like it's such a weird thing where the community is like, why do people want to make money? You took a deal for streaming to make money? Ew. I don't like you anymore. This guy shouldn't be making money. He owns an org and has like his whole life depend on this and like a company, and he was trying to make more money? That's fucked up. And it's like, that's kind of how everyone in the world works.
Yeah, I don't have a direct problem with doing that. Like, as long as franchising works out well, then I'm for it, you know?
Right, and so, like, the thing that you hear people complaining about is like, well, it's going to get rid of relegations, and then people are going to become bottom feeders. And it's like, you can't make money being a bottom feeder.
Yeah.
Like, the ecosystem has to change so much beyond just franchising that you have to introduce rev sharing and all this stuff.
Yeah, like right now, if you're not a winning, like even if you're a winning team right now, for the most part, everyone loses money.
Yeah.
No one makes money on league.
I haven't been updated recently, but like last year, there were like 4 profitable teams.
I think
it was 3. It was like TSM, C9, and TL.
And TSM is profitable because they're like the biggest brand.
Right, and C9 is profitable because they're the second biggest and they're all over the place. And then like TL didn't make any money off their league team, and it was like supported by the fact that they had the best Dota team, and like their CS:GO team was like getting going to the finals, and like basically like the best NA team ever. So like a lot of teams were not making money. And that's why that whole thing blew up with ᵐᵉᵐᵉ when he was like, you guys should stop spending money on other esports, and all the owners were like, other esports make us more money.
Yeah, or say make us money, period.
Yeah, where we don't lose it. So whatever. The point is that like, sure, I don't think you can be a bottom feeding team. Losing relegations as like a story sucks, because it is fun as a fan to be like, this team just lost their jobs. Oh my god, it sucks as a player. You're so happy that's gone as a player. But I think instead of having like storylines be about relegations, you're gonna have it be like, this team is now knocked out of playoffs, so they're benching their entire starting roster. They're bringing in new players. They're trying them out in the LCS stage. I think you'll see a lot more roster turnover with relegations gone, because you don't have to like sit and hope that like Keith is better than MASH. You can just try a new 80 carry out. You know what I'm saying?
That is true. No, I definitely think of that. I could see that happening a lot. All right, you want to jump into the analysis?
Yeah, let's get into it. It's been, I don't know how long. I haven't been keeping track,
it's
but
been a little bit, man.
It's been enough time that we should probably talk about some League of Legends.
All right, the real reason why you guys are here.
Hold on, let me.
I'm here, but the
You
second.
just wouldn't want to hang out.
The second reason you guys are here is we're now starting our analysis portion of our LCS show, Post League Time. Welcome to Post League Time, guys. We'll be talking about the TSM versus, I want to say Gamma Bears.
Nope. Gigabyte Marines.
Gigabyte Marines. They're the same initials, too. It's actually throws me off so hard. Gigabyte Marines. It was a 5-game series today, and honestly, did not expect it to go 5 games.
No. Everyone was predicting like a 3-0 or 3-1 for TSM. Game 1 happens, TSM do typical Game 1 TSM stuff. They just int everywhere.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, they disrespected their opponents, whatever. Game 2 happens. Looks all right for TSM. You're like, this is what we expected. They're going to turn around. And then out of nowhere, the Gigabyte Marines just win like a couple fights in a row. They take Baron, game over. And you're like, oh shit, TSM's going to lose. And then they reverse sweep, and not in a convincing reverse sweep either. It was like a hard-fought reverse sweep.
Yeah, and you're still being like, oh, they'll still, like, I don't know if TSM will sweep this game back, or the series back.
Yeah, I thought they were actually going to lose this series at a couple points in Game 5, where I was like, they're still just going to lose.
Game 5. Let's go to Game 4.
Yeah, I mean, Game 4 as well. Like, Jesus. All right. Let's go all the way back to the beginning, though. Way back to Game 1, if you guys remember, at 11 a.m., if you're on the West Coast, I guess.
It was approximately 5 hours ago was Game 1.
Yeah. So, the big thing to start with in the draft is just I liked the overall game plan for the Gigabyte Marines, where they targeted a lot of like safe stuff. They took out Lulus, they took out Iverns, they took out Shens and Nautiluses. They were just trying to keep TSM off stuff that like would stop the game from getting very scrappy. Because obviously, if you watch this series, Gigabyte Marines just wants to fight nonstop.
The one thing in the draft that I wasn't super convinced about the very first game were 2 things is Ziggs. I was just like, I understand why you pick Ziggs, but Ziggs usually gets bullied in lane. Like, he doesn't have many winning matchups in general, and you have to be... You're going to get pressured a lot when you're playing Ziggs.
Right.
And on top of that, the Jace pick, like, I didn't really think TSM's comp worked well with Jace. Jace, for instance, was just it felt like it was a take from the other team.
Right, I think it was Tony tweeted about that a little bit.
Yeah, like, and Tony shared my same thoughts, where it was essentially that TSM wanted to steal the Jace pick away from the enemy team because it worked really, really well in their lineup.
Yeah, and I think it's also makes some sense because you know that Optimus has a lot of crazy counter picks. For the most part, Jace is hard to beat in lane, like straight up 1v1. So I can kind of see the idea of like take the Jace, denies it from their comp. It's going to be good in lane, so they can't like snowball off your Jace. And that was true for the most part. Like a lot of the stuff that was going wrong was not super centered around Bjergsen.
It was just centered around the whole team.
Yeah, the whole team played awful.
Oh, I thought Bjergsen played the least bad, or
Right.
maybe Biofrost as well. But
It's hard to tell because Biofrost is kind of like attached to Turtle, and Turtle's like that dog on a leash who just like gets out of control, and you're like, fuck. All right.
all right, let's talk about the mistakes that happened this game. So from the
Level 1, starting first
my
minute in the
God.
game. Hey, their jungler's really, really good. Let's try an aggressive invade to hold him down, okay?
the worst thing about the invade was, you know, Sven got 1 CS of the small raptors. Literally, the Kazakhs, I think, got everything else, including the big raptor. And once that happened, I was like, they lost this.
Like, the way they played it was so aggressive. Like, he was walking through the raptor camp.
Yeah, to try to get the small raptors on the other side, and as soon as he lost the big raptor, it actually doesn't matter because in that position, I mean, it matters.
Yeah.
I mean, his position doesn't matter at that point because the Kazakhs just could have flashed Eid and it easily converted.
Yeah, but they, like, if you look, Gigabyte Marines didn't even really want to take that fight. They were like, okay, we got the big raptor, let's continue jungling. And then Sven walks forward to, like, auto-harass as a level 1 Graves. And then that's when the Kazakhs was like, okay, fuck you. And he levels E and jumps on him. And it's just like, and then everyone comes in, they collapse. Haunster loses his flash.
Mid loses exhaust.
Levi gets first blood. Now he's dead, so Levi goes topside and takes away the blue buff and some stuff as well. And then Levi's a fucking god. All right, let's get on this real quick.
Okay, so this guy's a monster for not the Gamma Bears, the
Gigabyte Marines.
Gigabyte Marines.
You could say the Vietnamese team.
The Vietnamese team because he's legit hard carrying almost all their games. And the reason, like, if you're looking at their losses, you're just like, maybe he would have been more effective on another champion. But as you say that, aside from maybe the third game, he was just like playing a monster everywhere. Yeah, Levi is the new Lyra, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I would love if Levi made his way into NA
He could
and they
be-
just had like this battle.
Yeah, this could be the first non-European, non-Korean import in North America.
Yeah.
I'd be down because this guy actually plays.
As long as his English is good, like he's crazy.
This guy plays really well. But continue on for mistakes in this game. So as we made the talk about Turtle in the bot lane, I don't know what Turtle did in this game. And actually, when you watch the C9 series back when they played the finals, you were just like, wow, Turtle's improved a lot.
That's what gave me a false sense of security about this
Exactly.
series because I was like, all right, Turtle stepped up in the playoffs. He did fine. This team's bot lane is not strong. TSM will be fine in the bot lane.
Yeah.
Bjerg will handle Optimus. And then like your only concern is Levi going off.
Exactly.
And if that was the case, that was not going to be a 3-game series. But Turtle like reverted.
It was so bad because in the TSM series against C9, I think they won the majority of the bot lanes.
Yeah, they were
like, straight up. They won like 3 of 5, which is really good against Sneaky Smoothie, considered to be like the best bot lane duo possible. You're just like, okay, if we send TSM's bot lane, they're definitely like top 3 in the region and maybe top 2 after that finals performance. They'll be fine. And then what ends up happening is they get Ziggs picked into them, and the first game. The solo queue moment happens. When you're playing solo queue, you're the support. You go off to ward, and you're just like, don't die, dude. I'm going to be warding River. Just sit back. You go ward River. Turtle walks up, eats full Karma Q into Ziggs W, into 2 Ziggs Qs, and just dies.
He got popped onto the minefield as well, and the second part of the Karma Q. So like he just took as much damage as like humanly possible while Biofrost was like sitting in the river brush like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and like that's something that's so
He ran past the creep line by himself to 1v2. And then it's just like, no, they're not like I don't think their bot lane's good for the Gigabyte Marines, but they're not like fucking awful. They're gonna like throw their spells at you when you do that and you're an Ashe. You don't have like an ability to outplay it in any way.
Yeah, and this was just like a real like what moment for me. And I think that Turtle's performance in this series was definitely not as high. Like this was me for him. He was at this standard. He played like at like this, like much worse.
Like if he doesn't improve, TSM is gonna get destroyed in the main event.
Yeah.
Like every bot, like this is not a good bot lane out of Gigabyte Marines. Like during the course of the play-in stage, which I was watching, they were fine. For the most part, they just kind of like hung around and then like team fought while Levi and Optimus went fucking crazy. And then like TSM's bot lane's getting rolled by him a little bit. It's terrifying if you're going up against Sven and Mithy and Bang and Wolf and like all the other bot lanes that are going.
Yeah, imagine playing against one of these better bot lanes, and they're also playing Ziggs. Like, Ziggs should not get a free lane. If you pick Ziggs, you struggle for your life to make it out of lane even, you know? Or like ahead. And they're just giving it for free. Like, TSM's just like, you want to win this lane? Here, have it, dude. The fact that you adjust their entire draft strategy for the series to first pick Karma to win games is actually insane.
So, to be fair, the Gigabyte Marines were targeting the, like, bot lane, like, semi-heavily in the draft with, like, a lot of support bans, and they start throwing 80 carry bans in there. But, like, the matchups that they were actually getting were not bad. You know, like, it's like they're banning away Nami and Thresh and, like, Lulu to, like, limit the amount of things that Biofrost can do, and then Bio's like, all right, I'll play Zyra, and then it's like, oh, I didn't realize my team was this bad.
Yeah.
I guess it's hard to save my like jungler and AD carry when they like just face tank things.
Yeah, so the first game I just thought was just a nightmare from level 1. Like bot lane, like when lanes get solo killed all over the place, or like killed on like early jungle ganks, the game just falls rapidly downhill.
And there were like still a couple small spots where like Hanser made a roam play and like alted the flashless Syndra.
Oh yeah, and that's great. Like that's like moments of greatness from TSM.
Yeah, you see that and you're like, maybe TSM will stabilize, but then like the Gigabyte Marines are actually really good at picking fights, and they just like are relentless too. They were like just don't let up, so they just kept forcing fights around mid, and eventually Bjerg started dying, and Turtle was already like out of the game, and same with Sven. So they just fell super far behind this game.
Additionally, I was really confused by Sven's boot buy. Like, he bought Tabby against Kha'Zix only, and it was all AP. And I was just like, wait, why would you buy this here? I just thought that there were better options. Maybe I'm just really nitpicking, but I think that especially if you're behind, you can't afford to go, like, inefficient item buys when you're playing Graves. Or when you're playing any
well, yeah. And, like, I can kind of understand a little bit where you're like, the Kha'Zix is going to be in my shit all the time. I'm going to be dealing with him for the most part, but it come like skirmish situations. Like there are a number of times where like Levi and Optimus just set up and like camp. They stole so many fucking blue buffs this series. They would just sit there and then, you know, he would walk past them and then insta die. And it's like those Merc Treads or Merc Treads would have been nice. Anything would have been nice. Ninja Tabby not doing a ton.
Yeah. I didn't really have much to say about the first game. It just felt like TSM had played relatively loose. Especially after, and I can't super even blame them because the level 1 was so awkward, plus Turtle dying. That
it felt disrespectful. Like, the level 1 idea, like I was kind of joking. I understand it. It's like, this guy's their superstar jungler. Let's get in his face a little bit. Let's harass him so he's not in his comfort zone. And then, like, they go so far with that idea where, like, Sven is, like, walking through the Raptor camp and auto-harassing him after the camp's already gone. Like, there was, and then, like, Turtle walking through this thing, and Hanser playing up with no flash now, like in the middle of the lane, and not just like kind of conceding the lane until he has his flash. Like there were like a lot of small things that just felt like disrespectful.
I don't necessarily know if it was disrespectful. I thought TSM just played bad. Like I'm sure if you asked TSM, they're probably like, yeah, we were maybe kind of disrespectful of them. Like we didn't really try. Like, but it's like I don't think you can really go with that. I just thought they just played poorly. I don't want to give them the excuse of saying that like they were disrespectful.
I want it to be true. Like, I don't want to think that Turtle is sometimes so bad that he just does that in lane. I want to think that's a disrespect problem, not like a, oh, my brain was off problem.
I want to say it was more of the latter. Like, I just think
I think that's what it is more likely, but I'm saying I want it to be disrespect. Like, for me personally, like, I want to say TSM has, like, a disrespect problem and not, like, our brains don't work problem for game 1. But it's probably more the brains don't work problem.
Yeah, it seems like, you know the phrase testing my limits? I'm sure you heard this a lot when you're coaching. Players would come up to you. For people who don't know, anytime a player would come up and they're trying out new stuff, they're just like, I'm just testing my limits this game.
I got solo killed 4 times because I just wanted to see what would happen the 3rd time that I engaged onto him. You know who did that this series? Game 3? Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, but that's like the phrase that I hated to hear the most.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt that way from TSM, where it's just like, the first game is always a game where you're just like, they throw it away.
Yeah.
You know? And to be fair, from TSM side, usually their draft adaptation while the series progresses is relatively good.
Yeah.
So that's why they were able to come back a lot of the times. But gifting away the first game, did like playing like garbage, I feel like it's gotta hurt them at some point. The fact that they almost lost the series against this team, where I think TSM is just a way better team, but apparently not.
It is weird because, well, I don't think they're that much better of a team because like game 4 easily could have gone to Gigabyte Marines. Legitimately they won that game. Game 5, a little bit closer. Gigabyte Marines back and forth. Probably could have won that one as well if they were a little bit better. And then Game 3 was the only time where it was like, what the hell is Gigabyte Marines? Like, Game 3 was the Game 1 for TSM, but for Gigabyte Marines.
All right. Do you have anything more to say about Game 1?
Nope. I like the overall game plan out of Gigabyte Marines. And then it was made extremely easy by TSM being idiots.
I think the only thing about this game was I thought Gigabyte Marines just got lucky, you know? After watching the first game...
mean that for initial...
Yeah, like they got in so many scrappy fights where like it doesn't really matter if they're behind like TSM's behind like a couple kills because they went 4 for 4 here.
Yep.
Like there were situations where you're just like TSM is the better team. Like they're just winning because they got a lead but like closing out, who knows? But then the second game happens, right? And then the second game happens and TSM gets a lead early.
Right.
And even with the lead early, you just see this Viet team come back. I still forgot their name. Gigabyte Marines.
Gigabyte Marines.
God. Come back from a deficit.
It's not an easy name to remember?
No, I keep thinking Gamma Bears. I literally wrote it. Like, the fact that they have the same thing, I keep thinking Gamma Bears.
I mean, if it was GBM, you would just write Gambit.
Yes. Or I would think of...
Gank by Mom.
Gank by Mom. Which... So it's like, everything's bad. But... I will try to remember more as the series progresses.
Sorry, I'm sure chat's loving it.
Yeah, the second game was just...
It was kind of a run back of Game 1. In terms of like overall strategy coming out of both teams in the draft. Where there was the early Karma pick. They took Gragas this time. They took Kha'Zix again. They still had the Ziggs bot lane. And then instead of having the Syndra, they had a Zed.
Like, definitely from...
Do it! You know it! I'm not helping!
Gamma Bears.
No!
Galactic Marines.
Yes. The Space Marines.
All right.
The Terran.
From the Galactic Marines, they were able to... they had the same game plan going in.
Yeah.
But TSM was just like, let's just pick comfort. I thought this was the game where you looked at this and you're just like, I've seen this comp before. Wait, these are all their best champions. Like, for the most part, they're signature champions, you know? And so they have, like, the top lane tank, Nautilus. You have...
Syndra.
Yes, Syndra. Bjerg's played like a bajillion Syndra games. Yes, Sven on his best jungler, Lee Sin. And then you have... Your top side have everything comfort, and then the random Braum pick, which I was like...
I didn't hate the Braum pick, really, in terms of what it was supposed to do. Like, it's annoying for a Gragas to deal with. It's a little annoying for a Ziggs to deal with. It has, like, good... It can be annoying for assassins, and you have 2 of them. Like,
the problem which I don't like about Braum is that the Ziggs' weakest part is the lane phase.
Yeah.
And so if he gets out of lane for free, that's a huge problem for these comps. Like, Syndra can't contest Ziggs' range. And even if Braum blocks a little bit, like, it's not enough, at least in my opinion.
What support would you want there with Lulu, Ziggs, or Lulu, Thresh, Nami banned, and Karma taken away? You go back to Zyra again?
I don't think Zyra is bad.
I don't think it's bad, but I think, like, you watch what happened Game 1, you're like, we need some defensive tools.
Right. But I feel like they have a defensive tool from their top laner. Like, they have the front line
this
from
time
Nautilus,
around, they have a little bit more.
And so I don't think they should be as scared to play it out. Now, Zyra into Zed is kind of dangerous. Like, just in general, like, I would be careful if I was a Zyra. So maybe not Zyra here, but I think that there has to have been another option, which would give them more control in the lane.
Yeah, I'm just not sure, like, what good range supports are left after that, because they targeted them so heavily. Like, MF is dead, Malzahar's dead, in terms of, like, what's viable in the meta, really. And then, what are you looking at, like, Janna? Maybe? Like, that sounds pretty bad. Bard? Sona?
So...
You think Biofrost is playing the Sona?
No, but she has the highest solo queue win rate as a support. I'm just saying.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, I don't know what actually they could have done. Do you think the Soraka versus Karma matchup is that bad?
Ooh, so I actually don't like people playing Soraka unless they're like a one-trick at it, like Adrian level or something like that. Just right now, because I feel like you gank that shit once and it's over.
That's true.
Because
the Soraka just feeds.
Yeah, like...
Absolutely.
Like, let's say Kha'Zix jumps down there once and, like, you kill it, and then Ziggs just, like, is pushing in on the Soraka nonstop. It's just...
I guess this was a series where, like, they just trusted their top side. And I remember talking with Tony when we were doing finals, and he specifically said he thinks TSM has the best top side of anyone in the league. Like, that's how they win their games.
Yeah.
And so this is a game where their top side is supposed to smash. And bot lane just gets carried.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the problem for TSM, is that's often the case. This time around, though, one of the things that we always criticized Levi about during the group stage was that he gets over-aggressive sometimes. And that happened on and off throughout the series. This time around, he goes for a blue buff contest. I actually thought it was super smart the way he did it, but then he just got too aggressive. He like goes in, wards over the wall, waits to see if Sven does 2 camps or 1 camp to blue, and then once he realizes he's not coming to blue right away, he just steals it. And then he could have got out, but he wanted to fight because he's level 3 Kha'Zix versus level 3 Lee, and Kha'Zix wins.
Right. But even though he loses this, because TSM collapses really well, they get 2 for 1. I thought Levi's route after this was actually so good. He went for like the ballsy, risky play where he just immediately ganks mid. Right after this situation.
Yeah.
And he converts the kill back, which equalizes, and I don't even know if it equalizes. It's even worse for TSM because they give double buffs over to the opposing mid laner.
Yeah, Zed gets the double buffs, and then he just goes and takes his own blue as Kha'Zix. He's fine. Like, it was really weird because I think Bjerg was like, no way he's going to gank me. I'm going to have time to push this in and like reset. And he even went over for a ward over the wall. And like as he's doing that, that's when Levi comes in. So yeah, it was really smart. I don't think it was like I think some people might say like, oh, Bjerg was being greedy or something, but I thought it was just like, why would you do that? Your whole top side's up.
Yes, it was something where it was just a really risky play to go for, and it paid off for Levi for sure.
Yeah, and then after that, it still feels like TSM might be in a little bit of trouble. They lose like a couple fights, but then they start winning them. I think they got the dragon, and at this point, I think they were up like about 1,000 or 2.
Like the game kind of starts the way you think it would start, which is
right.
TSM's top side. Like how it blows open from the early game is TSM just 3-man's top. You know, gets the kill, gets first tower, and that's exactly what you expect to happen with this. You said I said their top side's good, and they blew open the game from top side, and you're thinking TSM's got this game.
Yeah, that's what you're thinking, and then I don't know. Like I'm not even sure exactly. Like I'd have to rewatch the team fights for like how exactly they are actually able to turn these Gigabyte Marines, but it's like 15 minutes into the game, or maybe it's even before that. Like TSM makes this big like 5-man invade on the bot side jungle, and it gets like really extended and like drawn out, and then it ends with like a 3 for 3 or something. And you're like, oh wait, Gigabyte Marines didn't lose that fight that bad. And then TSM a couple minutes later fights Dragon, and they just get fucking blasted. Like they have no set like line because they're front to back team fighting comp. Ashley, Nautilus, Syndra, Braum. You want like the team in front of you. It's a Zed, Ziggs, Kha'Zix, Gragas, Karma. They want to come in from every angle, and they have like their bot lane coming in from the bot Tribush as TSM's doing Dragon. They have other people coming in from the top, and like TSM just gets kind of taken apart.
And for the most part, no one would run this style of comp in NA.
Right.
Like, this is a comp where you don't even see Zeds in NA for the most part, but you're running like Zed, Kha'Zix, Ziggs. This is like a really like high damage comp, which could get blown apart like instantly.
Yeah, it was kind of a combination of FlyQuest and like, oh my god, Envy. It was like a weird combination of those two, where you have the Ziggs bot lane with like a counter pick assassin mid, and you think that's gonna be horrible for TSM or like bad for the team playing against TSM because they're gonna play this really controlled style. But they were able to keep finding these like weird angles that forced TSM to try and kite back, but one person on the back line was almost already dead every time, often Turtle.
Yeah.
And so they just lost like those 2 fights, and then they lost another one, and then they lost Baron off of it, and they kind of just came back from being down a couple thousand gold at 15 minutes.
And it's weird because they fought TSM in what is TSM's historically best
situation,
trait.
yeah.
Right, which is team fighting. Usually, when you're playing against TSM, you don't want to be fighting team fighting over objectives because TSM has got that trait unlocked. Like that's what they're famous for. Even like from like Lon knows what they like. They fight like blue buffs. They fight dragon. Their dragon control is super good, right? But they just got beat at their best trait, and this is the game where I was like, oh,
TSM's in trouble.
Yeah, TSM gonna lose 3-0. This is gonna be a nasty series. We're gonna be going real quick to PLT.
Yeah, I was scared. I was like tweeting jokingly like, haha, TSM sucks. This is funny, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, is any of this bad? Are we actually like just worse than wildcard regions?
Yeah, I oh my god, I would have felt really bad for TSM losing, but I mean, I definitely thought that after this game, the other team deserved it.
Right. Like, I think even after this, I'm looking at them in the second because they play against Saturday with a chance to still get in. Like they could fuck with some people if they get into the actual main event. Because their early game's good enough to get advantages, and then their mid and late game isn't so bad that they can't close out.
It's a better Envy. That's what you're saying.
It's basically a better Envy.
Because their jungler is a monster. Like
yeah
their jungler is someone that like jokingly people are like he's gonna get imported. And like it's like low key not a joke. You're like he might get it.
I would have to see his English.
Yeah,
but if his English is good,
like if his English is good, just give that guy a contract.
CLG, like you need to.
Someone will look for him, and that's like crazy that you could say that, but he's looking that good.
So that brings us to Game 3, basically.
Game 3 where
I have one note.
Was it Reggie's paycheck arrived?
No. It was kills in every lane TSM. That's the only thing I had. Game was over by 4 minutes in.
This was such a bad game. I watched this.
This is the testing your limits game. This is the game where you're like, how the fuck do you counterpick Gragas with Renekton and die solo kill, no jungler interference 3 times in laning phase?
Oh yeah,
you have like 0 matchup knowledge. Like, how does that happen?
It was actually when that happened, you're just like, and the worst thing is you see the replay. It's not like Hauntzer popped off, dude. He did this sick.
It's not like last auto attack, a little bit faster by the Gragas.
No, it's actually just like, oh, the Gragas is like 30% plus, and all these trades finish, and the Renekton's trying to run away and gets autoed to death every time.
It's so fucking sad.
Except that one time he died to the Gragas ulti, but it's just like a terrible situation because when someone just straight up feeds three deaths, that game is over.
Especially like on the tank. Well, a lot of situations, anyone who gets 3 insta kills, like only bot lane wouldn't matter, or maybe like an Ivern, like wouldn't run the game over. But a tank, a mid laner, a Lucian, any of those things will like take a game over.
Yeah, and this is one of the situations where Levi plays pretty bad. Like the bot lane gank, Levi essentially just ran down there and straight up killed himself.
His bot lane was like getting shit on already, so he's like, I'm gonna do like the relieving pressure gank. I'm gonna wrap around behind him, and he just eats like Ignite, Empowered Karma Q as burst, and just he's dead.
And this is the start of TSM's adaptation. They realize, hey man, our bot line's been losing a lot. Like we need more pressure from the support.
What if we took the best laning support?
Exactly. So they just first picked Karma, and they did it every game, right? Yeah, they did it.
Yeah, they took it every game after that.
And I think that's really smart of them. They recognized they had a problem this series, and they adapted. Usually TSM's pretty good at being able to do draft adaptations over a series. And I thought that this like...
It's true that it's like good to see the draft adaptations, but it's kind of sad that they got to that point.
Yes. I'm super depressed. They needed to revert to this to be able to win bot lane, or even go even. But, yeah. I mean, like you said, they were winning bot lane before this jungler came down. And what happens, jungler came down, makes a misplay, and the game's just over.
Well, because as he's doing that, because he shows bottom and he dies, okay, great, Ezreal with double buffs, this is sick. Because the jungler's dead and Bjerg has pressure mid, Sven's like, oh, this is a free dive mid. So then Sven goes and dives mid. Not clean at all, by the way. Like, Bjerg missed half his skills. I don't think Sven landed the Q. Doesn't fucking matter. He's dead. And then at the same time, in the top lane, the Renekton just is like, what's a Gragas do? It just dies. And every lane dead. Every lane has an advantage. The game is over.
You know the trade top lane is really bad when the Gragas gets like two grass procs off on you, and after the first one, which you're already losing, you don't run far enough away to where like, maybe he does more damage than I thought. Like I looked at the top lane and I was just like, this guy's a mess. Like this guy's all over.
This is like one of the times where you hope some story comes out and it's like, yeah, I had the wrong runes. Yeah. I had my Gragas runes on Renekton. And you're like, please, something, anything to explain why you're that bad.
It was essentially a situation where Hauntzer didn't play well at all, and TSM got the freest early kills.
That's a good point. That like Hauntzer played fine. I think Hauntzer is probably the best performing member of the series, that or Bjergsen. But it wasn't like Gragas took apart this Renekton. What a dominating performance.
Like, we'll highlight areas where Hauntzer played super well. Like, when we get into Game 5, we're going to go off on this guy.
Well, right? I mean, even Game 1, like, when the game was totally out of control, Hauntzer's like, all right, well, their Syndra has no flash. I'll roam down there, ult, I'll get a kill. Like, he was playing decent even in the bad games.
Right. But this is not a game where you're just like, dude, Hauntzer's just so good. He's MVP material.
What other Gragas could solo kill a Renekton 3 times? It's like, what other Renekton's gonna die 3 fucking times to a Gragas?
Yep, this is a nasty series, and just like Mark, I have almost nothing written for this. It's straight up a series where TSM got the early snowball, and the other team just played like garbage.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
So we'll move on to Game 4. That's the wrong one.
The game that TSM won, they clutched victory from the jaws of defeat.
Gigabyte Marines like killing people too much. That's what I'd say.
Yes.
They like they didn't rip victory from the jaws of defeat. It was like Gigabyte Marines were like, we can kill another person. It's like, no, you can get Baron with mid inhib already down, and then use your fed ass split pushing Fizz with teleport to 4-1 and end the game.
I think they were just too like excited, too eager to win the game. You know, they're just like, yes, we can do it. This is our time to shine. We beat the North American Legends, Team Solo Mid. We're about to do it.
We're gonna be the heroes of the world.
Yeah, and then like as they get there, they're just like, wait, what was our plan again?
We're gonna dive 2 Nexus turrets 5v3.
They're like, it's like
20-something minutes into the game.
It's like they get to the finish line and they trip. Like they didn't expect how fast
this is like the guy who like turns around as he's going through the finish line to like signal to the crowd and like stumbles and trips backwards, and the other dude just finishes. He's like, fuck.
That's perfect. They messed up so bad. But before they got to that moment, you were actually
they like looked impressive. It was like,
yes.
Yeah, these guys deserve it.
This is a series where you're just like, I was worried here. I was super worried because I actually think against better teams, Fizz blind should never work. Like, it doesn't matter if Fizz is a comfort champion. When you're looking at Gigabyte Marines, Galactic Marines, whatever.
You had it.
They had the early Fizz pick in the second rotation before the other mid laner played. And it's like, why would you pick that there? Why not just pick Nami? Because at least you can't get straight counter pick. But to be honest, TSM was probably going to play Ori anyways. They banned Syndra, which kind of looked like they would probably have chosen Ori. But
I know what you're saying. It's one of those situations where it's like neither team did anything smart in the draft, but neither team punished it. It was kind of like both teams were so desperate for comfort, they just did that shit.
Yeah, and even though I didn't like it, honestly, Optimus's Fizz is so good.
He's nasty.
It reminds me a lot of Westor. And while he didn't win like either of his Fizz games, he was actually doing work on both of them. I was very impressed with him.
You're right. So this game starts out with Levi being a beast again. Really good path. Ganks Bjerg right before Bjerg hits 6, gets that kill.
On the wave, Bjerg is hitting 6. Fizz hits 6 first on the reverse, and Levi is there to convert the kill. It's just like, wow, dude, this guy got to this place at the perfect time.
And then on the top side, Stark answers back. Shows he's not a complete idiot. Gets a kill onto Hanser. Remember that?
Oh yeah, that was.
He like ulted. Sven was like kind of coming up topside. It felt like he kind of knew the dive was coming, so he wanted to jump the play and like he ults Hanser into the turret. Hanser walks out, saves his flash, whatever. But he's at like 10% HP, and he's like, I'll finish getting the wave in now. And then Gragas just like flash body slams on him again and kills him.
Yeah, and this is a situation where if you look at the Gragas play, you're just like, he played really well. Because I'm pretty sure Hanser had shield cooldown up, or it was close. But Gragas actually did it so quickly that it's very hard to react. So you're looking at this play, and you give props to the Gragas player here, but you're just like, he played that very well. Good execution.
Right.
Unlike the game before where you're just like, Gragas is 3-0, but I don't think he did that much.
Yeah. So that was good to see, like, you know, Gigabyte Marines bouncing back. And then there was like a lot of skirmishes this game because obviously when you're playing with Fizz, there's a lot of skirmishes generally. And
the story of the game is Caitlyn really likes fish. That's how I think about it. Caitlyn's overall damage this game.
Is that like a lore thing?
No, maybe.
Yeah.
I just saw Caitlyn's damage at the end of the game, and usually I don't pinpoint this much, but you're just looking at this and you're just like, did Turtle do much this game? And the answer is always like, you look back at all the teamfights, wow, he died really quick. Jesus.
I mean, like, I agree. You know, DPM, not the best stat to look at by itself. You know, you have to take context into account. But when your fucking Caitlyn only does more damage than the enemy team's Nami, you're the 9th play, and you won the game.
You got problems.
In like a pretty long, scrappy game. What was that?
You got problems.
You got some fucking problems.
I'm sure, like, you could say that, look, like, the Turtle just drew so much pressure from the enemy Fizz, like, he just...
I baited him, I'm useless, and he kept killing me, what an idiot.
Like, but to be honest, if you see how Turtle executes some of this, I understand it's actually hard to play Caitlyn in this situation.
Oh, right. Like,
he doesn't have great ways to deal with a bunch of the things, the Fizz pressure in general.
I mean, maybe. I think having Karma, Lee, Ori is like decent enough to keep a Caitlyn alive.
I would also say that Optimus flanked very well.
Optimus definitely played well, but it's not like a situation like if he died a lot this game, I don't think that would be the problem, right? Like that's not what I'm saying. What we're saying the problem is.
Yeah,
it's the fact that he also didn't do anything.
Yeah, he would die, and then he would have to beg Bjergsen to carry his ass from the grave. Like the top lane fight is a perfect example where it's like, oh, Bjerg just played this fight like a monster. Him and Hanser like hard carried this fight, and what did Caitlyn do? Oh, she died instantly.
She chased. I think she was chasing Levi, and then just fucking dies to Fizz on the backside.
No, it was a situation where like she walks up, a Fizz ultis, Caitlyn blows double summoners, dies instantly, and you're just like, oh, Caitlyn didn't even stall the fight long enough to like blow important cooldowns from the Fizz that Bjerg had to actually like play well.
Yeah, he had to like outplay him after that.
He had to convert the kill off playing well.
Yeah. To be fair to TSM, I think macro-wise, it was an okay game. Like, despite like they had some decent plays on the top side that were good, and then they started moving Caitlyn around the map, and they took a bunch of turrets, and like the game was kind of stalling out. And you were like, okay, it looks like TSM this is like kind of a TSM game. It's a little slower, more like pushing an objective focus. And that's when all this shit started breaking out.
And originally TSM, that's probably TSM's game plan going in. When you're the stronger team, especially when you're a team fight oriented stronger team, you slow the pace of the game down. You're not here to go super aggressive and get like 20 kills by 20 minutes. You're here to get like 1 kill at 12 minutes. But you get like first tower, or you get like first dragon.
Yeah.
And it's like, if the game's slow, it's better for TSM. But even if they were playing a slow-paced game, the other team found a way to get options.
Right. So like
to get picks. Like, it was actually crazy.
Yeah. There's like a time where TSM like went bottom, and then Gigabyte Marines went up mid, and then like TSM tried to flank behind them, and they chased them up to the top side. This is the play that we're talking about. And then as they're chasing them up this way, the Fizz like gets behind them again and gets behind them. So it's like this weird like snake game of everyone just chasing someone in front of them.
And don't get me wrong. Actually, when I saw this play was awful.
Yeah, I just wrote like retarded map play.
Yeah, this was actually like a terrible play by the Galactic Bears. But God, I don't know why this is so hard for me. It's like I'm getting old or something. Anyways, it was
that brain lag, dude.
Yeah, it's a really bad play from the Vietnamese team. They ended up converting it into a good play because Fizz finds an angle, but it's at
it still comes out bad at the end.
Yeah, the entire time I'm looking at this play, I'm just like, why didn't Fizz just follow his team? Instead, Fizz tries to cut off the mid lane wave for no reason, like actually none at all. And if Fizz had followed his team, this actually might have been a winnable fight.
Yeah, it's a disaster. But the big thing is, like, as bad as this goes, a lot of cooldowns go down after. Like you said, you lose double sums on Turtle. And then a couple minutes later, I think Dragon's coming up. And it looks like Fizz should go on the Nautilus onto Hanser. And then he just, like, the Hanser gets out, disengaged a little bit. He instantly turns around and snipes Turtle out with, like, a max range fist.
It was Sven.
It was Sven.
Yeah.
He should have killed Sven. And he just turns around and snipes out Turtle
and
insta-kills him.
Yeah, and Turtle probably was like, oh, God, I can't believe I fell for that shit. But this was a situation where you just saw this, and to win, they needed Fizz to play well. This is a game where, usually with most games with Fizz, he has to be like a really big part of the game.
Well, Assassins in general, really.
Yes, but this is a game where you were just like, well, props to Fizz. You found all the angles, all the looks he needed to be able to convert. And as they're going to finish the game, they get the near ace, right? I think one was up.
It was something like 1 or 2 were up, and someone was respawning in a second, and they had like all 5 or maybe 4.
Instead of getting the free Baron and then closing the game out, they tried to force Nexus, and they lost the game. It was actually terrible. Like,
it was so fucking bad.
I think that's probably the worst call we're going to see the entire tournament. Definitely the worst call we're going to see the entire tournament. This was a series-winning call, or series-losing call.
This is the difference, like, because no offense to the Galactic Bears, but they have to play another best of 5, and maybe they played super good today, because they didn't look this good in the group stage of the play-in. So, like, Supermassive, assuming they lose to Flash Wolves, like, maybe they don't even make it into the play-in stage now just off this call for the Gigabyte Marines. So that's a little scary. And it was so sad because it's such an easy call to make. It's like your Fizz is out of control. You just killed them, basically. You crack the inhibs. One of the hardest things to do with a comp like this, where it's like a lot of like all-in, is like actually sieging down inhibs. So like the fact that you get the inhib, and then you can get the Baron, and then you can split push again with an inhib already down is like the ideal situation to be in with this comp.
Yeah, what would have happened? They get Baron.
Yep.
They 4-1.
Yep.
And the game's over. Like, it's just so hard.
Anyone who tries to hold the Fizz alone gets dove, and then the game's over.
Yeah, maybe the Nautilus tries to hold the Fizz, but then you think about it. What are TSM's engage tools? Sven has to hit like a nasty kick to start this fight.
Yeah, and then Graves and Ashe just like hit the turret slowly.
Yeah, and it's like it's really really dangerous, super dangerous for TSM. And honestly, the other team has all the options. They have double TP as well. They can send maybe 2 people bot lane at one time, just straight up dove with 2 instead.
Yeah, like the Fizz is huge. He can kill the Nautilus with like a Gragas tanking.
Yeah, exactly. And so TSM is then forced in a terrible position. And as this game kind of winds down, you start to realize that
it's over.
It's just over.
It's over.
They don't contest when they should have. I think they gave. First Baron came down. They gave away bot tower, and then bot tower bond him. And I was talking to Mark about this. And he's like, "Yeah, that's fine."
So what happens after they throw is TSM, obviously after acing the enemy team, goes and grabs Baron and instantly starts sieging.
Right.
And then this is what you're talking about.
They break the bot inhib. They break the bot tower. Okay, maybe giving 1 up is okay. They go back top lane. No Baron buff, and they're trying to crack the base. And then this is where like everything they just can't convert.
Yeah, like the Varus shoots a random ultimate out, and then like a Rumble ult goes on top of it. Or the Ashe, excuse me. I'm crazy.
Yeah, we're thinking about the next game.
Yeah.
Because that's like the same thing. But
it's the same thing.
I think so.
I don't remember, actually. I think they just kind of got crushed and they ran out mid lane.
Actually, no, wait, that is what happened. We're thinking about the next game. Sorry. They got crushed after
I was like, I distinctly remember a Varus ultimate.
No,
My notes say Ashe.
No,
so one of us is...
Yeah.
One of our Alzheimer's is kicking in.
I'm thinking about the next series.
Yeah.
In this game, TSM just smashes them after the Baron buff. They end the game.
Yep.
Okay, great. Cool.
Game 5.
Yeah, I'm down to go to game 5 where TSM picks Ivern. The first time Ivern's been left up the entire series.
I think it's a massive mistake out of the Gigabyte Marines. I think, sure, you want to maybe do something about the Nautilus because obviously it's great for TSM, but I don't think giving up the Ivern's right. I think Levi had such an advantage over Sven for like any of these even somewhat volatile skill matchups that giving him Ivern, on top of the fact that all the extra protection it gives for Turtle and all the factors, I just don't think it was right to give it up.
I agree, especially if you're looking to play Fizz. And it's pretty obvious. It's like Fizz is one of their go-to picks.
Yeah.
If you're playing Fizz, you ban all the shield champions you can because he just wants to assassinate people. And they still left it up. And the thing is, it's like the Fizz was still able to find looks for the large majority of the game.
The Fizz played well again. It was just... It was very hard for them to win this game from a comp perspective once it was a 12-minute first blood. And that's exactly like what we're saying what TSM wants. So like given the comps and how the game started, it's really hard for Gigabyte Marines to win this. The Ezreal pick, we were talking about this. Ezreal in this comp for TSM kind of sucks, but Ezreal for Turtle is kind of necessary. Because you don't want to give him a Caitlyn. Like Caitlyn, great with this comp. Amazing with this comp. Don't want to give it to Turtle again after that game. I
think Kayla would have been the best pick.
I mean, it got banned, which I was kind of surprised at.
I even think at some level, like, so the option essentially was to pick. Varus got taken, so they weren't left with many options. I think Ezreal is okay because Turtle already can somewhat play with Ezreal, but like you said, like this is a comp where the Ivern stacks Censor on you. And Knight's Vow, and you just want to be an auto-attacking champion because you just maul everyone. So Kog'Maw was a possible pick here. Everyone's been running Kog'Maw, Ivern, comps with Ivern and Lulu, but they didn't go for that because it's too mobile against Fizz, right? And I can kind of understand why.
Yep. So the Ezreal pick makes sense in that regard, even though it's not perfect for the comp. And then, like I was saying, the game just is really slow at the start with being a 12-minute first blood in the bot lane, but while they were doing that, TSM was grabbing first turret, so it wasn't even that bad. The only problem was the fact that Turtle had no sums for that first blood because Gigabyte Marines bot lane sucks, and like the Gragas missed everything when trying to all-in Turtle 2v1.
Yeah, that was, oh god. That should have been Turtle dying right there.
The first blood should have been at like 9 minutes.
Because he misplayed so badly, but it just didn't happen because they just misplayed.
Yeah, and actually talking about the Gragas flex in general, both of us were kind of like, why did you flex Gragas for Rumble when Renekton beats Rumble and you saw that?
Yeah, I thought that this was a terrible flex. Like I think that you could probably lose the lane better with Gragas than with Rumble. Rumble is a situation where if you ever get dove as the Rumble against Renekton plus jungler, you auto lose. Like you have no defensive tools in your kit. Your defensive tool is ulting the wave and praying to God it dies fast enough. And so I actually really dislike the flex pick. Like I understand it's cool, man. I love the flex pick stuff too, but this is like
they flex picked into a losing matchup worse than like it goes normally.
And won the lane. That's like the worst thing.
Wait,
it's like,
did they win the lane? I thought TSM, like, that was the first turret they took, was the top turret, right?
no. I mean the bot lane.
Oh.
Whatchamacallit.
Oh, I thought you were saying the Rumble won top lane. I was
Oh,
like, what the
no.
fuck?
I'm thinking that the bot lane won with Gragas, which I don't think is a winning lane. Like,
No, I don't.
That's a lane where you're just like, he only wins if the Gragas like just destroys you, and that's not what happened.
Yeah, so like the flex pick oddly worked out for bot lane, and then it worked out as you expected around the top side, where like Bjerg roamed up there once, and he backed off the turret, had to run away, and then he just lost his turret. Whereas like if he had a stable laner in the top lane, and let's say the bot lane goes somewhat similarly, then it's like great, you're winning the game maybe. But because your top lane just is sacking turrets, it sucks.
And so this is the game where ᵐᵉ kind of becomes the hero of the game. Like ᵐᵉ at what was it, 24 minutes does a TP flank onto the team. Just a ridiculously good TP flank. You're watching from at the dragon perspective. He comes around the side, hits the blast plant, gets in the middle of 4 people, and just destroys.
He instantly fucks up Levi, who is like the big carry.
Yeah, and he's just like, this fight, you're just like, oh, this is the ᵐᵉ I dreamed about.
Yeah, the only problem was before that play, and the reason TSM fell so far behind and needed ᵐᵉ to hard carry was that super overdive in the bot lane. When Bjergsen like loses his mind chasing the Rumble.
Yeah, that was really confusing. I think even if they had killed the Rumble there, it's not even a guarantee that they come out of that alive. Like,
yeah.
Like the enemy team was collapsing fast enough to where like you're looking for like a fast burn and a quick getaway.
Not at all. They overdive. They get caught out. They go behind. It forces this like weird situation where Sven flash steals and ᵐᵉ's like fucking them up 1v4 while the rest of the team collapses and they win that fight. It was like a 4-for-1. And did they get Baron off that, or was it just they? Yeah, they got Baron off.
Baron and Dragon off.
Yeah, they got Baron, Dragon, a 4-for-1. Is nuts. And then I mean, the one thing that we said about the Gigabyte Marines in the group stage was that they will just force shit over and over and over. And they had some really good force calls here as well.
But as you say that, and what I was talking about in the last game that I thought was this game, I thought their forces were terrible. Like, this is a situation where...
You mean the runs around neutral objectives or the ones when defending?
When defending.
Yeah, I agree with that.
After TSM gets Baron, you just see the other team just lose control slowly and slowly. The biggest reason why they lost control, and they should have looked to force harder, is it's the bot lane's job this game to start the fight.
Yeah.
And I really don't think they understood that. If you're picking Gragas, you pick Gragas to start fights, to be disruptive. What did this Gragas do out during these fights?
Never saw him insta kick target.
Yeah, he never like looked for the buy slam play. In fact, Rumble or Fizz had to start every time. I felt really bad because I'm just like, well, yeah, of course the Fizz opens, like it's gonna get like Zanya'd or like the tank's just gonna grab it or the support's gonna grab it. Like they don't have the luxury of having the Fizz start the fight.
I feel bad for Optimus for that reason. I don't feel bad for Stark because like even when given the chance, they'll be like, oh, this is the perfect fight for me to take over the game with my Rumble ult. He just fucked it up horribly. He had that one in the mid lane where he was just like literally 90 degrees off. It was like you just gotta aim it a little bit more like that because it was not close at all to like TSM. So I didn't feel bad for Stark. I thought he played pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean,
I felt bad for Optimus and Levi.
Yeah, I felt bad for those two, but yeah, the bot lane just didn't perform well. If you see how the Varus ultied, he just randomly threw out ultis when they're sieging. Fizz wasn't nearby. Hey, dude, just take this.
Yeah.
And they need that to set up the fight for the team. So Varus ulti got wasted like twice during sieges, and they just conceded every inhib, and then the game was relatively over. Something which they should have forced on like immediately as soon as they could. It felt weird.
Yeah, it definitely felt weird. The only thing that we were talking about was the neutral objective forcing was super, super good. They had one of these in the, I believe it was the first game, maybe the second game, where they were like down people and retreating, and they ran to Baron when TSM wanted to get Dragon. And so even though they were down people, they were able to get the Baron and then get a couple fights. Remember Twitter was popping off about that neutral call?
Yeah, but...
And then this game they had a couple where I think they forced like Infernal Dragon, or Elder Dragon, excuse me, after trying to force around Baron. Like they just like force shit all the time.
And I love that they're able to force around neutral objectives. It's like the first Baron call, you're just like, this is a nuts call. This is so good. But the last game, I just didn't see that kind of like force when they were getting sieged on, and that's exactly
that's what you need. Yeah, like if you're in a losing situation, you're gonna be in that losing situation until the enemy team fucks up or you make it like the situation change. And it never felt like they were ever well coordinated. Like here's a VAR assault, then we're going to insect that guy back in the team, and then like while they're going forward to try and protect him, we're going to go on the back line with the Fizz. There was never a coordinated fight like that. And that's probably why they lost the game.
And if you actually see positioning-wise, like, it was so hard for the team to get in because, honestly, Levi was playing frontline a lot of this game. And I think if the Graves is playing frontline, which is, like, super scary for the Graves to get like, caught or poked at, that's when you know you kind of... if he's needing the frontline, people on your team aren't doing their job.
Yeah. I think that was the big problem. Was like Levi and Optimus clearly really really good at their champions and their roles. The rest of the team just couldn't hold up on their own. Stark was really really hit or miss. Like he had some good plays. I'm not gonna say he always played awful, but he had some bad plays. Their bot lane looked great with Ziggs, and then after like the Ziggs started getting banned away, they couldn't do anything really. I can't remember like a big team fight out of the Vars. There's like maybe that one team fight where he almost could have cleaned up at the end of the game with Levi.
Oh my god!
And then they just
I thought that was almost. I
thought TSM went too far.
Yeah. Well, that was a situation where like as you're going to like kneel down to start the stream, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, time to fire it up.
And like the game's not over.
Yeah.
He's got this, and it's like, oh, he doesn't have it.
Yeah, never mind. But yeah, his build was just like you just don't do any damage. It was like 350 AD items. So you had
and
like
then double zeal.
Yeah, and you're like, all right. I mean, good luck.
It just doesn't scale that well. I think as soon as they gave up the dragon fight where TSM played really well,
yeah.
Then they just needed to depend on a good initiation, which they never got.
Right.
So generally, what do you think about the series?
So big takeaways from the series: Gigabyte Marines, pretty legit team. I think even though we would agree TSM played like shit for a lot of the series, it was off the back of Gigabyte Marines often forcing stuff.
Yes.
So it wasn't like, oh man, Honster forgot how to play top. He just died to turret and shit. Like no, like for the most part, Stark made some plays.
Yeah,
or he got ganked.
And you see them even like some of their macro play is actually really good. A lot of the mistakes TSM made this series, two of them in particular, were just off the fact that they had too few people looking to defend dives. And sure, that's a big mistake on TSM's part. However, it was up like Gigabyte Marines were there to force that level of play.
I'm sorry.
What?
Everyone just check their Skype. It's always on Do Not Disturb. I restarted my computer, dude. Auto goes back onto available.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm an amateur.
It's all right. It's all right. Don't worry about it. We know Josh isn't here to help production.
Yeah,
so
let's blame Josh, actually. He's got some kind of fucking job he needs to do. Like, doing PLT isn't good enough for him.
I was about to say, like, that's why our production isn't that good. But, I mean, we can go that way, too.
Yeah, let's blame Josh. Dude. It's never our fault. Josh's fault. He's not even here to defend himself. It's perfect.
But anyways, the series is a lot better than I expected.
Yeah,
actually.
I was happy it turned out this way.
Entertaining wise, a lot better. Worrisome if you're an NA fan.
Right, but the big thing is you are through.
Yes.
You may be panicked. You're like, oh my god, we suck. But at least you will see us go 0-6 or whatever, 0-5,
I actually think
0-10.
TSM tends to warm up over the tournament and will be probably playing better in the next week. And so I'm not too worried about them.
So the reason I'm still worried, and I agree with what you're saying, is just that they will be better. Like, Gigabyte Marines look better than we thought, but they're no SKT, they're no WE, they're no G2. Like, maybe they are G2. I don't know. They're no Flash Wolves. Okay. Assuming we'll see Flash Wolves tomorrow.
But I think that like TSM has yet to show like their full potential. I'm still somewhat cautiously optimistic about their next week performance. But if we're looking at it strictly from this best of 5, they played really bad.
Yeah, they didn't look good against C9. They looked even worse today.
Yeah,
and so not looking great for TSM in their international competition. Gigabyte Marines, we'll have to see how Supermassive looks tomorrow, but I would take Gigabyte Marines as the favorite now, having watched Supermassive in the group stage.
I only caught one of the Supermassive games, and while they did win, I was just like, their competition is like 0-6. Like their competition was not good.
Like they literally ran Ivern, Karma, or Ivern Lulu, and just like protected a Caitlyn or something, and then they just smashed teams who didn't know how to like do anything macro-wise. So it was a little hard to judge how good they are. I expect them to lose to Flash Wolves, and maybe they're good enough to beat Gigabyte Marines, but assuming that Gigabyte Marines has a similar game plan where they ban out this kind of stuff, they're really scrappy. Levi will get an advantage, I think, and think it might be good enough.
All right. Well, I got nothing more to say on this series. I thought it was entertaining, but somewhat suspect.
Exactly, my thoughts as well. Now we have another best of 5 tomorrow, which we will be doing PLT for.
Yes. So we will be back here same time. Well, hopefully earlier time.
Who the fuck knows?
I don't know if it'll go to 5 games, but we'll see. We'll be doing this tomorrow for sure. Maybe Saturday, yet to sort out the scheduling. If you want to find the VOD of today's analysis, you can find it at our new Post League Time YouTube, which you can find on our Post League Time Twitter. We don't have a specific URL for it because apparently you need to wait 30 days. So up until that point, I can't have a custom URL. But you can find it at our Post League Time Twitter. It will be up there tomorrow. Should be up there tomorrow. Never want to promise anything with Scarra. Dude's a mess. All right, then.
You want to do some Q&A for a little bit since we got some time, or do you want to get back? It's almost 5. You got to get back, right? It's like basically 5.
We can do a little bit.
All right, we'll do a very, very short Q&A. We'll just do it off chat. We'll do it for 10 minutes or something.
All right, ask away questions. If you guys have any questions, like for instance, what brand are my socks?
Are you sponsored by your socks? You sponsored by Champion?
Not yet, dude. I want to be. Actually, these are cheap ass socks. I want to get more expensive. If I'm gonna get sponsored by a sock company, I want them to be the top of the top tier. Not really sure what the top of the top tier sock companies are, but
yeah, I don't know, because there's like athletic socks, and then you might have some dress socks. Depends what you're looking for. Levi or Lira?
Oh,
ooh.
I think
I know who I'd take for sure.
I take Lira.
I take Lira.
But
the only reason I say it is because just like better sample size, and I've watched him just like crush a region. Whereas like Levi looked good this series, but he also had some plays where you're like, he's inting. And for the most part, like I didn't see Lira almost ever like mad. He did it a couple times, and especially in the late game. In the late game, he had missed some mistakes.
The thing is I would love to see Lira on a team as good.
Like a team where he can trust his team to do something.
Yeah, and so like I know Lira gets a lot of flack because he doesn't win games. Their late game's really bad, but I like to not think it's solely because of him that NV loses all their games.
Right. That said, I would love Levi to show up in NA. I would love to see some more of that guy.
Same.
When did Levi int game 3?
Yeah, that was just hard int.
He just ran into bot lane and handed double buffs over.
Someone asked, do you think Bjergsen played bad this series? I think he played okay.
I think he played okay. I think a lot of stuff was going wrong around him, and Optimus and Levi are good enough to kill him.
Yes.
So
and that's very rare because usually TSM supports their mid laner a lot.
And like they would pick like game 1, they picked Sven on like the second blue buff spawn or something, and then like Bjerg lost his summoners in that trade, and they reganked it, and then TSM punished with a regank, and like I thought they were playing around each other kind of well. I don't think he had a great game. He didn't smash Optimus in lane ever, really. I can't remember like a crushing CS lead.
I think at best he got like a 10, 15 CS lead.
Yeah.
But a lot of that I feel like it's because Levi just had way better jungle pressure.
Yeah, that's true. It is hard to like bully a lane as hard as you can with Syndra when you have to worry about.
Yeah, like you can't pressure Fizz under tower, especially if your jungler's losing, because their jungler's going to show up out of nowhere mid lane and kill your ass.
And I think the big thing for Bjergsen is he had a couple high points as well. Like in game 4, when Turtle insta-died that one fight, he killed Levi and Optimus basically on his own with like the help of Karma.
Right, and in game 5, if you saw the Baron fight, like especially where they scrapped it out, like Bjergsen actually played those fights out really well.
Oh yeah, Turtle was all right in those fights too, but Bjergsen was the one like picking up the kills and really finishing people off.
Yeah, I thought Bjerg had an okay series.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I would not be disappointed in Bjerg's performance, though you want to see more out of him.
Right, like I'm more on disappointed in like Turtle and maybe to some extent Sven's performance.
Yeah,
like I don't think Sven should be getting outclassed to the extent that he did.
You see one you like? I got a big camera in the way. I saw one about.
Did you know that Stark had only 1 month of professional play? No, but that's pretty beast.
On the one hand, that's surprising, and on the other hand,
that's not
very surprising. You show me game 3, I'm like, a month? Shit, I thought he started playing this game yesterday.
But the rest of the games, I thought he played okay.
Yeah,
and it's obvious why they left him on tanks for the most part. When you saw his Rumble play, you're just like,
Yeah, not so great.
Which is why, again, it's confusing. They took away his Gragas last game, and they're just like, let me take that. You can be the carry this game. And it's like, wait, crap. You can't.
Yeah, and you're going to be against Renekton. Not even a great matchup for you. Have fun, friend. Why do you think Kha'Zix was... I think I saw something about Kha'Zix being priority.
Oh, I think Graves is a better champion, but especially for Levi, I think Kha'Zix was better for him just because of how hard he was beating the other jungler.
I think Kha'Zix is better if your team really crutches on you to be a playmaker. And like when he was on Kha'Zix, he actually built relatively tanky, but because he was ahead, his damage was still really good, so he was free to just jump in like an idiot and assassinate.
He literally third item like Dead Man Stairs after Cleaver, it was like Dead Man Stairs.
Yeah, he had like a 3k HP pool at like 30 minutes.
And it's great. Like that's the type of item build where you can just jump in at Kha'Zix and be like, guys, let's go.
Yeah, and that's what his team needs. Whereas when you're on Graves, it's much harder to be that kind of player. Obviously, Kha'Zix, I think a lot of people say his team fighting is not great. I think it's just kind of dependent on your team. If you're not as ahead as he is.
Right.
If you're playing Kha'Zix from an even game state, you kind of have to play him like an assassin, which is not how a lot of junglers play right now.
And to be honest, it's like, sure, Kha'Zix is maybe not great in team fights, but that's the trade-off you get for being good at skirmishes.
Yeah, like you can fuck anybody up 1v1.
And that's essentially like the way they win is because they skirmish really well. They do the 2v2 skirmishes mid lane super well, and generally he controls the pace of the map, and they don't fight full team fights until he gets to the point where he wants to fight them.
Did you say TSM was going to finish in the top
4?
You said top 4.
Yes.
You sticking with that?
Yeah.
I was pretty hesitant on that because the question is basically they're going to be better than hypothetically they're going to be better than the wild card team that gets in.
Yes. So they're 5th.
Right. So they're already 5th. I think we can agree on that.
Okay.
The question is, what is the major region that they're better than?
Maybe Flash Wolves, maybe EU.
So I've heard from a lot of people that Flash Wolves is supposed to be the second best team at this event.
Oh, I'm ready to see them.
They apparently crushed their region, massive gold leads.
Well, it's essentially the old Flash Wolves with a better AD carry.
Yes.
And the mid jungle from the old Flash Wolves were monsters. Karsa has always been
and Maple, yeah.
one of the best junglers, period. And Maple's actually a monster.
Right, and they almost beat C9 to get out of groups. And now they're better from Worlds.
You had me convinced, and then you said they beat an NA team, and now I'm just like, what is? You're right, dude. They couldn't beat NA. Jesus, they suck.
I'm just saying. I'm giving you the facts.
I understand what you mean.
Make your own judgment.
Okay, so let's say Flash Wolves isn't the case. So what about Europe? Well, what have you been hearing about Europe?
Europe, I've been hearing some mixed things about. So basically, Perks have been struggling all season long. Stepped up in the playoffs really hard and was like a big carry for them. And obviously Trick's a monster, so like if Tricks and Perks are matching Bjerg and Sven, then I think Sven and Mithy are much better than TSM's bot lane, and I think Hanser's better than Expect. So it's like kind of a skilly matchup. That could go either way, depending on how good each of those respective power points are.
And you straight up think China's better than NA?
I would reckon so. So here's the weird thing about China. Everyone's trying to say like, oh man, the rise of like domestic teams again, because WI I think has no Korean players, and a lot of the Korean players left EDG and RNG, which were the 2 best teams in China. And then they're trying to tell me for some reason that makes the region stronger. And I'm like, wait, so the top 2 teams last year had a lot of Korean players. Those Korean players left, and now those are no longer your top 2 teams. Why is the region better again? So I'm a little bit confused on it. WE has a Korean AD carry? Mystic is Korean. Okay, I stand corrected.
Oh, they got Korean.
Well, they're beating
better.
TSM. What are we even talking about anymore?
Holy moly. I don't know. I don't watch enough about China and Europe to be able to make good comparisons on this. I wanted to say TSM had a good chance at top 4 because realistically, I expect them to get out of this playing stage where one of the 4 teams drop, you know?
Yeah.
If they can't get out of this, like, oh my god.
Yeah, well, so they're for sure getting through this.
Yes, and so the next one is 6 teams. I thought being able to place in the top 4 of 6 is reasonable, especially with one of the 3 teams from last one coming through. But maybe it is the case that they were just stuck at the 5th place, and you're hesitant to put them above because their performance state is terrible. I do think a lot of their performance does hinge on how Sven plays.
Yep.
And that's a good and a bad thing, you know?
Well, because you can say, based off today's performance, I don't think he'll play much worse.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
So you'd be like, well, they should be playing better than they played today.
But when you think about his jungle matchups against all the other players, like I know how good Karsa is. That guy's actually a monster. I know Trick is good.
Peanut.
Like, he's playing against Peanut. That guy.
Levi again if he makes it through.
Yeah, like Peanut is like legit hard carried SKT. The guy's actually so good. And
I mean, most teams' strengths at this tournament are jungle mid synergy. It's like
I don't know.
WE has Xiaohu, if you remember him. He was like a god tier Syndra player, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, wait. Yeah. But who's the jungler?
I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
I know Xiaohu. I remember his Syndra, but I don't remember who the jungler was. That's why. But that's what scares me because he's not getting it against bad jungle competition. This is like one of the more stacked.
Yeah, you're in a tough battle every time, so that's why I'm a little scared that TSM, they don't get top 4.
Ooh.
Condi.
All right. I am.
ZA. God damn it! I always mess them up.
Oh, it's GA, not
GA.
Xiaohu?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
it's the
I
X
don't
name.
watch the region, so I just trusted him.
Don't trust me for shit.
I think that there's a strong possibility that they will not end top 4. However, I still want to stick with it because I believe that they can beat one of the other teams. However, it does scare me a lot. You know, their current performance, I'm basing it on the fact that usually I feels like TSM warms up over the course of an event. If I look at historically, usually what happens at Worlds is they don't get the time to be able to warm up because they drop at groups, which is hilarious. But in other aspects, in other situations, I generally they get better.
Yeah.
Like as playoffs progress, they get better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their
regular season progresses,
they get better. And so I want to say that they'll get better enough as this progresses because usually when they lose, they immediately get better right after because they can just pick, God, we suck. You know.
Yeah.
And so I trust that they can get better enough to secure the 4th place.
Okay. I'll go the opposite just to be the contrarian. I don't think they get into the bracket stage.
What's the bracket stage?
Top 4. Top 4. I'll say they don't get it. Is it good to leave on for you?
Yeah, that's good to leave on.
All right, thank you guys for watching PLT. Kind of a random time and date just based off when MSI is going on.
Right. Again, reminder, we will be back here tomorrow to analyze the Flash Wolves and Supermassive games. We don't know when they'll finish, but it should finish somewhere between 2 and 4 p.m.
Yep. So just follow our Twitters, which are kind of cycling around on the screen right now. You're good. Or, just follow Scarra's Twitch channel, and when it goes live, it goes live. Until tomorrow, everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching.
End screen.
Oh, and I will be streaming right after this as soon as I get back.
No one cares.